Welcome to the Loveall Sales Podcast. Today's episode, I did a lot of thinking and wanted to make sure that this episode really hits home to a lot of individuals that is geared towards salespeople and managers in this industry. Today's topic is going to be about the industry, how it's changing extremely fast, which it always does. That's the one thing about the auto industry is it's evolving. It constantly changes. And if you don't adapt to the changes, you do get left behind. And this is how salespeople are going to get left behind or dealerships currently. The industry is shifting again. And let's talk about this. I speak with a lot of individuals, dealerships, salespeople, management, owners, principals, and traffic is inconsistent. That is what I am hearing. Some stores are slow, others are booming. And internet leads, a lot of people have told me that, again, just like traffic, their internet leads down. Other stores, they're telling me that their internet leads are up. But they are telling me this, and that is the leads that they are receiving are getting weaker in the terms of like they're getting more far, far away people, meaning like states away, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. Those individuals, they usually inquire about the right vehicle, but they are really just it's a race to the bottom. You know, in the old days, people really bought locally, but that is evolving. 92% of all people nowadays are shopping online. That's where they start. 14 hours they are spending before they click that button or walk on the lot. 14 hours. That is a lot. And consumers are getting smarter than they ever have been. They're watching videos in the terms of like, how do I buy a car? What questions should I ask? And that really comes back to I am a firm believer. And when someone asks for a discount, they're not really, yeah, they want a discount, but they're okay paying the price that you have. But it never hurts to ask. And that's why we have to be prepared. Salespeople management, where when someone asks for it, we have to learn how to truly answer that question without saying no, because that's a mood kill. You can't just say, no, we can't do that. You've got to phrase it in a different way. But it also goes back to, truly just being prepared. And that's why I love having my sales training company. Instead of discounting a car $1,500, $2,000, invest that money into your dealership in sales training. I would love to help you all. Shout out to my company. But customers, they're getting more educated, and that is a good thing because it's more transparency. And the more transparency, the longer that we are going to stay afloat, the longer, the more loyal those customers, because they feel like yeah, I did a great job, so they feel from a consumer standpoint, they feel better. And also it goes back to, and this is very true, okay? The more we make on someone, the more they love us. And you probably will agree with me if you're watching or listening to this podcast. So managers are blaming the market, and understand this. Like, I have always been this way because my mentor built me this way, and that is we can never blame anything but ourselves. If the market is getting soft, we've got to work harder. We've got to work smarter. We can never blame our bad month on it's February. It's just a slow month in the car business. I think that's more of a mindset than anything. And I remember, and you might have heard me say this before, but February was my best month where I sold 64 and a half cars, made 50 grand, 48 to be technical, and I did it without an assistant. So I could have said it was a slow month, but no, I worked harder than I ever worked. And that month was a blur, literally. But going back into it, like people blame the lead, salespeople do. You can never blame anything but yourself. If it's the lead, then work harder, generate more leads doing other avenues of prospecting. There's always more ways to skin a cat than just one way. There's more than one way to sell a car. There's more than one way to sincerely generate a lot of leads. So the key point to this first part of this episode is the market doesn't kill the incomes. It's the lack of skill adaptation that did. And I thought very hard about what I wanted to talk about this morning, and I have several different areas. That's just the first one, and that is the industry is sincerely shifting, and we've got to be prepared. So tie your experience. You sowed good and bad markets. You got to really, be prepared for what 2026 has, because if you don't, you're going to make less money. You might sell more cars, but you'll give more cars away. So, and you might sell less cars. So you've really got to up your game. And in my opinion, I think this is happening, and that is the death of the order taker. The salesperson that got in during COVID, I'm hearing more and more people talking about, hey, I'm getting out of the business. I'm getting out of the business. I'm switching dealerships. They're blaming it on the dealerships. So understand, waiting for ups, people are doing, like I said, 14 hours worth of research. They are starting their car buying, 92% are starting their buying experience online. So you have to, and then more people are also asking, hey, what's the best price? That's the most common question that people are getting these days. So we truly have to show them hope. We got to give them reassurance. We've got to give, like, I call it future selling, meaning like, you going to park this in your garage or your driveway? Can you see this vehicle parked in your garage or your driveway? Like, we've got to do really good at, necessarily not giving away the farm before the people even get in, because then you're just creating a shopper over the phone and long distance. And sometimes you got to do that. But I'm always going to try multiple times not to do that before I have to. Don't just go automatically into giving everything away. So you need to, this is the part that everybody has to master, because if you don't, it's going to cost you. And I mean tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending upon how many cars you sell. And that is, you've got to learn how to prospect. And not just learn it, you've got to master it. Prospecting is the most important tool to any salesperson, any industry that you could ever be in. Why? Because it's all about a pipeline. It's all about how many people you speak with and how many effective communications, conversations do you have on a daily basis. My goal was always 15 to 20 people a day. If I talk to that many people, I'm going to sell 40 something cars a month. I tell my students, if you want to sell 20 cars, you better talk to 10 people a day. That's roughly speaking 50 people in a week, 200 people in a month. You do that, you're going to be successful. But you've also got to learn how to have meaningful conversations, because also, if you make a ton of phone calls but don't accomplish anything, activity without accomplishment means nothing. You could work all day and you could have busted your butt and made 100 phone calls, but if you didn't have effective communications, it doesn't matter, does it? Because you're not going to build your pipeline. So I am a firm believer in this, and I teach this very hard in my sales training company. And that is, I teach you how to prospect very hard. But most importantly, the conversations, if you have a lot or a little, the most important aspect is you've got to learn how to lead the prospect. You have to learn how to control every interaction on the phone, in person, because if you allow them to dictate and ask all of the questions and lead you in the direction that they want to go, that's not the direction that you want to go. And odds are it's not going to go the way that you want it to. I remember this very vividly. When I was being a GSM in training to be a GM, I remember, like, I'm a very hands-on individual and I love training people. I love it because it's one of the most amazing, gratifying feelings seeing someone that is below average to get to really good, or vice versa, good to great, great to phenomenal. It's one of the most rewarding things. But the thing that I always paid attention to when I was watching people at the dealership, on the showroom, outside, is who is leading who. Because if my salesperson is leading them, odds are we've got a better shot of selling them. I could just listen on the phone, and that is who's controlling the conversation. Whoever asked the last question's in control, but also who is really directing them going where they want to go. And it needs to be the salesperson. If you're not doing that, you're falling behind. You're not going to control that outcome. And then the most important part, is control, yes, but also a very important key ingredient is building trust fast. You've got to have more, and I call this helper vibes versus seller vibes. Like, I was working with one student yesterday, and this individual, he literally like he just signed up for the training and he's doing the Loveall Legion, $300 a month, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 12 to 2 and 5 to 7 Eastern times. That's 24 meetings in a month, 48 hours of live coaching, plus you get access to the online sales training program that has hundreds and hundreds of videos, hundreds of hours of content. And he literally just started last week. And he had two different showroom ups. And I was like, so what did they say? And he was telling me the first one, they blew him off and he just sounded so desperate with his words. And also, he didn't really give helper vibes. He gave more like just seller vibes. And that's a mood kill for a lot of prospects because no one wants to be sold. They want to buy what you have. They wouldn't be on the lot if they didn't. But yet again, you've got to really give them seller vibes. And that means just like, I'm sorry, like helper vibes. That means like you're really just helping them. You're there to serve them. Serving them is like the most important part where they don't feel like you're just there for a sale. So the average salesperson is being replaced by information. Like, and I sincerely believe that. Like, anybody can go online now and figure out everything that they want. They can see pricing everywhere. Everyone's, for the most part, it's a race to the bottom. And everybody, prospects can see that. And then they still ask for another discount. So the elite salesperson is becoming more valuable than ever. I repeat that. The salesperson, the elite salesperson, is becoming more valuable than ever. Why? It's because dealerships want individuals who know how to protect the gross. Because dealerships, on average, for every dollar, they only keep 3 to 5 cents. 5 cents, 6 cents is an amazing dealership. On average, it's 2 or 3 cents for every dollar. We, meaning the dealer principals, spend millions, tens of millions of dollars, and they get such a small return on their investment. A lot of prospects think that we just make tons of money. It's not that way at all. We keep very little once we pay everything. We only keep 3 to 5 cents on average. So elite salesperson, that's why you need to become that person because your dealership won't want to lose you. They'll pay you. I remember when I was selling cars and that, my last year selling cars was 2020 or 2021. And that is, I was heavily paid, and I sold Volkswagens, which, I did a very good job at. But besides the point, I was paid. They will pay you to become an elite salesperson. How do you do that? You train, you invest in yourself. I've always had, since I was 19, a dollar amount, an investment amount that I would invest in myself every month. And the more I made, the bigger that got because I wanted my skill set to level up even more. So if you're not investing in yourself and setting a budget every month, even if it's a small budget, reading books, even if it's like $300 a month to invest in my Loveall Legion where we role play a lot. In automotive, there's no other dealership, no other management in the terms of like sales training that you can get 48 hours of live coaching, 24 meetings, plus access to a virtual training for $300 a month. I did that on purpose. I'm not here right now to make tons and tons and tons of money. It would be great. But at the end of the day, the most important part is serving customers, serving my students and helping them get really, really good. $300 is a steal for 48 hours of live coaching. But to move on to the next step, why most salespeople are struggling right now, related, and this is truly like they fail on getting massive engagement. What does that mean? It really means that they're not talking to enough people consistently and having more effective communications, like I mentioned briefly earlier. They're not doing it. You've got to talk to a bare minimum of 8, 9, 10 people a day. If you can talk to a bare minimum of 10, you're going to win. And then on top of that, like I was mentioning, I don't want to say afraid. Like when I teach my students, like, I teach them first, like let's just say it's an inbound phone call. I teach them first how to get their name and number. And you always got to give a reason why just in case we get disconnected. What is the best name? What is your name and number? And I'm always going to get that. And I'm never going to repeat the number back from the caller ID, I'm going to ask for it. And if it matches it, great, it checks off. If it doesn't, what's this number? So they're afraid truly to ask tough questions. The second question I was always asked is, please tell, like, what do you like best about it? You need to learn how to tailor your presentation. And so many times people, they don't ask that question. They go right into the appointment. That's treating it more like a transaction. And you don't want to do that, because then they're going to treat you like a transaction and say no. My third question, and I love this question, and this is the part that a lot of people are afraid of. If this vehicle is available, would you buy it? And I'll usually when students hear that, they're like, what? Like, because they're not used to asking it until after the test drive, like a trial close. They're not, some people don't ask, would you buy it, until literally you present numbers. But I am a huge believer, like the sales funnel. If you don't know what a sales funnel is, look it up. Like, prospects start up here, meaning it takes them 2 weeks to buy, just making up an example. And I want to get them down really, really fast. How do you do that? By asking tougher questions, by getting commitments from people. That's how you speed up the process. So I always want to speed up the process, because I then, do you want to have a lot of people who are at the top of the sales funnel? You might say yes, but my answer is no, because they take so much of your time. One of the main reasons I was able to sell 50, 60 cars a month, high 40s for years and years and years, is because I got people in and out fast. I made shoppers buy really, I shouldn't say made them, I got them to buy really fast, so then I can move on to the next person. And then when they got there, on average, it was about an hour and 45 that they stayed inside the dealership. National average is like 3 hours in the dealership. So I speed things up. And, if it took me 3 hours, I would have never been able to sell 50, 60 cars a month plus make 1,500 phone calls. Never would have happened. So I love speeding up my process, but my process can never truly speed up if it affects the customer's experience. It's got to make sure that you still give that quality experience while also, like, sincerely speeding up the deal. So I ask really tough questions, meaning I get commitments. I get to the point fast. I can have a very meaningful conversation in 6, 7, 8 minutes. I would say the maximum you really want to have is about 12 minutes. But most of my conversations, videos, were 6, 7, 8 minutes long. And that I can build a very strong connection. And I promise you this much: when you get off the phone with me, you want to buy from me. And I don't go straight for, when can you come in? I don't do that. I'll ask you the commitment, but I'm not going to just like, when can you come in? That question just turns me off, because if you call 10 dealerships right now, nine of those individuals will say that really, really fast. And they treat it more like a transaction. You do not want to do that. Like, I promise you, like, the one area that I love, and most people don't, is the phone. The phone is going to get you more deals now in this era in the auto industry than ever before. You've got to master the phone. If you don't, you're going to leave tens of thousands of dollars on the phone by giving away gross, not being able to close deals. So going back to it, like last week, I called like 10 dealerships. All 10 of them asked me really quick, when can you come in? Only one out of the 10 got my name and number right out of the gate. The other nine, some people didn't ask at all. One or two asked at the very end. So be different. If you got to think, your prospect probably doesn't just talk to you. They're going to talk to other people. And if they talk to other people, if you sound just like them, they're going to treat you like everybody else. Be different. And then they talk price too early. A lot of times we bring up the price, not them, we. And you don't want to do that over the phone. You do not want to do that, because then they're going to be like, well, let's work everything out over the phone before I come in. You need to give them reassurance that you are going to put a deal together, that they are going to drive off of the lot in that brand new car. And again, I love future selling. I'm always going to say, like, so let me ask you this. What time do you leave tomorrow morning for work? Well, I'll leave at this time. Okay, and you park inside a garage or outside? Well, I park inside a garage. Well, picture this. Tomorrow morning, you're going to click that button. That garage is going to open up. You're going to see that beautiful new car. You're going to be driving to work in that beautiful new car. How amazing is that? How exciting is that going to feel? Woo! You got to paint that picture. And the better you can paint that picture, the more effective it's going to be, the more effective that they're going to get excited to drive that vehicle tomorrow. You're going to bring that to life. And the better you can do that, the better chance of you have of getting those individuals in without having to give up numbers. I remember like selling Volkswagens. And I still teach this to students this day. It still works. But I would get people to drive 2, 3, 4 hours without giving up numbers because I would say things like this: I promise you, I give you my word, I reassure you. And then I would give them reassurance that they're going to leave in the car. And because of that, people would drive hours and hours and hours without having numbers, and we would figure it out. And I use that as a way to benefit me and the dealership. It benefited the customer as well because they did leave in the vehicle. But at the end of the day, like our words are everything. And we've got to learn how to be, how we learn, we got to learn how to communicate more effectively is probably a better way to put it. We can't just you can't rely on just being average anymore. It's going to pay you average results. The true elite people, I heard this a long time ago, and it's true. 10% of the salespeople in the automotive industry make 90% of the money, and the 90% make the 10%. The elites, they get paid. The average people, you get paid what you are worth, what your skill sets are. Level up. Again, shout out to my sales training company. And then on top of that, this is the part that truly drives me nuts, and that is people give up, salespeople give up on they give up on the follow up. They might have followed up for 1, 2, 3, 4 days and then they just give up. They might follow up for a week and then they just give up. When I ran my sales team, and that is like when I sold cars, me and John Hunt's goal was always to call 60 days worth of leads. He did, my goal for him was 2,000 phone calls. Me, myself, it was 1,500 phone calls. So you got to think how many calls and how long of the follow up that is. So our goal, my goal, was at least 60 days. Sometimes we would get 90 days. Sometimes we would do more. Sometimes we would do a little bit less. But yet again, like we followed up like so much. And from a salesperson standpoint, if you work somewhere, like this is my main thing, is I want you to follow up for at least 30 days. But it also really depends upon how many leads that you get in 30 days. Because if you're only getting 15, 20 leads a month, then you can follow up for a few months. So it really comes down to the leads, but at least follow up as much as you can because the money is truly made in the follow up. And you got to think about this too, because when they first inquire, you literally get they don't just inquire with you. They inquire about multiple other people. Let's just call a spade and be honest with it. And most people, they only follow up for a few days. So if you keep following up, most people tell themselves this, and that is, well, they're not picking up. They probably don't want a car. Wrong. They get hounded by a lot of people. And the more time goes on, the less people keep following up. You're setting yourself, you're stacking the odds in your favor is what I am. That's what I've always told myself because I always try to look at the positive side of everything. You either can look at it the negative, meaning like, hey, they ain't picking up. There's a reason for that. I'm giving up. I'm tapping out. Or, hey, you know what? Less people are following up. I'm going to follow up. It gives me a better chance of selling those people and talking to those people. So look at the glass half full versus the glass half empty. And another reason why most salespeople are struggling right now. And I sincerely believe this is the number one reason, and that is they rely on the dealership for pretty much all of their opportunities. I call it the big three: showroom ups, internet leads, and inbound phone calls. Could you survive and make money if you did not get, or just say if your dealership had a really slow month? Could you survive? Odds are you're going to tell me, probably not. Shame on you. My goal was always 30%. My goal was always 40%, meaning I want to generate, roughly speaking, almost half of what the dealership provides me. If you do that, you're always going to survive. God forbid, if the dealership had a bad month, I can still make a good living. And how do you do that? You got to master prospecting in all kinds of different ways. Because in other videos, other podcasts, I'm not going to go in detail. There's so many ways to generate leads. There is no way let me rephrase that. 99% of people, if you would have interviewed them when I first started at Volkswagen of Clarksville, shout out to them. There's no way 99% of the people would have said I would have never probably been able to sell 40 cars a month because the month before I got there, they sold 42 cars in total. And yet again, you think I'm going to sell 40 cars? Nobody besides me and a few people thought I would get to 50, 60 cars. I knew deep down inside I would because I'm a bad man and I know that. And I have the work ethic and the skill set to back it up. And I speak with confidence there. I mean it in a humble way, but I just know that I'm extremely talented. I'm different than 99% of the people. I never give up. You know, you can knock me down 100 times. I'm still going to get up again and again and again. Just like today, I'm filming this podcast super early, 6 o'clock in the morning, because I have my 12th and final chemo treatment. Hopefully it's my last. And I woke up early, did the stuff, and then I'm making a podcast because one of my goals is to make a podcast every single day for the automotive industry because I sincerely want to bring so much value to this industry where I blow up and I'm literally one of the most known automotive sales trainers because I know what I teach works and I know deep down inside more people need me than ever in this industry. And that's why I started my sales training company. But dealership traffic is no longer your business plan. You can't look at it that way. You got to learn how to generate literally like at least 30%. That's what I tell my students. 30%, one out of three, you've got to generate it yourself. Um, Now let's talk about this. You know, so many people they want to make and they get in the auto industry salespeople because they want to make a better living. It's getting harder to make 150 to $300,000 a year. I still know a lot of people doing that. And I know a lot of people making 150 where if they truly like buckled in and got a lot better, they can make 250, 300,000. And I know some people who are struggling to make 100,000. So this becomes the value section sincerely like in the terms of like you've got to like truly, the old saying is you'll never outgrow your self-worth. You've got to believe that you are worth that amount of money. And I sincerely believe that because so many people, they've never made it before. They don't believe that it's possible. And, like I come from nothing. I come from the south end of Louisville. The average, income out there is probably $30,000. Actually, let me look it up. I'll look it up right now. But it's not a lot of money. And average household income for, I'll put the zip code, $36,000. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because like I don't come from money. I don't come like everything that you see and hear from me is because I built myself and the skill sets. Like I can't tell you how like it's been hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've invested in myself to make me who I am today. Does it come by literally just listening to YouTube videos, just kind of picking and choosing a little bit here and there? No. It's like intentionally like investing and going like I've traveled all across the world literally listening to people, seminars and masterminds and tens of thousands of books and podcasts that are free. Some podcasts are like amazing that are free, just like this one. And it's like I did it on purpose because my mentor, 23 years ago told me like this is what I was like, dude, how can I become you? And he was like, I don't want you to become me. I want you to become better than me. And everything that he taught me was sincerely like was the real deal. And a lot of the stuff that I preach, I say the same thing that he did because it made me who I am and I love who I am. Especially from a salesperson standpoint, there's very few salespeople out there that are better than me. And invest in yourself every month, even if you're making a very little amount of money. You have to invest in yourself, even if it's not with me. And I'm okay with that. I want you to become the best version of yourself. So, the number one, all right, so this is going to be the number one aspect. It's really like the modern like today's market automotive skill stack that you truly just have to do. And if you do it, you'll make a lot of money. And the number one thing is phone mastery. There's no one better to teach it than me. And you've got to fall in love with the phone. you've got to be willing to make 80, 90, 100 phone calls every single day. And that's easy. I can make 35, 40 phone calls in an hour. If I sit down and don't have any customers all day, I can make 150 plus. And, like you can do that too. You just got to want to do it and have the discipline to be like, is it boring? Yes. It's just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over, but it will pay you the biggest results. You've got to learn how to build trust super fast on the phone because most salespeople, most consumers don't trust them because they're taught all salespeople are just bad people. Don't trust a salesperson. They're going to get you. You got to learn how to build trust super fast. I can help you with that too. And then you need to be more question-based selling. That's what I do. I literally will have someone, and you all hopefully have listened to some of my videos, me prospecting, and I try to get the prospect talking and telling them and asking them questions for them to tell me and share with me how I can sell them. So my mentor would always say, like, if you ask the right questions, they're going to tell you how to sell them. And I didn't know what that meant for years. And then I was like, oh my God. And then when it really clicked in my mind, like hopefully some of you all watching this or listening to this played sports or something, a hobby. And when you got really good at something, it just slows down. Like it feels like it's slow motion. That's what sales feels to me like. So many people like, how do you do that? Like, when we role play with my students, so many times like they can just throw stuff at me just off the wall and they're like and I overcome everything and they're like, how do you do that? It's because I'm prepared. I've built me, and that's why I love building people that can handle stuff like that. Does it happen overnight? Absolutely not. But the more you invest in yourself, the more you train, the quicker it's going to happen. It's a compounding effect, or a compounding interest, just like putting money in the stock market. And then prospecting daily. That's the number one goal that you've got to master, prospecting. I'll spend all damn day prospecting. Literally, that's my goal. Like, if I don't have any appointments today, I'll stay on the phone and I will prospect all day. But then you got to have literally like effective um, conversations, communications. But then you got to learn how to sell on social media, meaning like you got to learn social media is more important than ever. TikTok is the number one app. People love watching videos. Like I've got a lot of students, some of which sell a decent bit of vehicles off of TikTok, which is amazing. When I was selling cars, that was not a thing. Or like it might have been a thing, but I didn't sell off of TikTok. But nowadays, it's more important than ever. So do that appointment setting psychology. And this is really like so many people just say this, like, when can you come in? I've got an appointment today at 4 and an appointment tomorrow at 10. But they say 4 and 10, like they work until 5 and then tomorrow they work 9 to 5, but yet you say that. So you got to learn how to ask for the appointment a lot better and coach people into it and then ask questions to get them to show up. And I'll go ahead because it's really quick. I'm going to be like, so what time you get off work today? Oh, you get off at 5. Awesome. Congrats. And how close to the dealership do you live? About 30 minutes. Okay, so you get off at 5, 30 minutes. You could be here by 5:30, 5:45. Is that right? You see how I said like you could be here at that time. I'm coaching them into it. And they're like, yeah, that's right. Okay, perfect. And is there any reason at all why you would not be able to make it tomorrow at 5:30, 5:45? No? Okay. And please give me the common courtesy where if anything changes, please let me know because I am going to take the time to have that vehicle pulled up. I am going to have time squared away, set aside just for you. So when you get here, you'll have an amazing experience. So please give me the common courtesy. If anything changes, please let me know. Will you do that for me? They're going to be like, yeah. And because me asking those questions, and then tomorrow when I pull up the vehicle, I'll take a picture and I'll send it to them showing that the vehicle is pulled up. I had a 70 to like 80% shown ratio when I set an appointment because those are called button-up questions, highly effective. So national average is 1 out of 3, or I'm sorry, 1 out of 2. Some people at like 1 out of 3. You really got to get your shown percentages up, and that is your follow-up system. So many people, like I mentioned earlier, they give up. You can't. You got to keep going and going and going. And then this is truly where I believe so many people mess up, and that is they change their process to different people. You don't. Your process this is the same. That's like Steph Curry, because he missed a few shots, he changes the way that he shoots. No, he shoots the same way, and he shot millions and millions of shots, and he's the number one three-point shooter of all time. And I think that's how many threes has he made? Let's look that up. I'm gonna give y'all a very good example. How many threes has Steph Curry made in his career? He's made 4,100, which makes him the number one three-point shooter of all time. But yet he's taken millions of shots, practiced, only to make a very small amount of those in the terms of in the game. Practice makes perfect. So you've got to literally keep going. You don't want to change your process. It always stays the same. I would use my same stories pretty much all of the time. I would use my like these are the steps to the sale. Very good analogy because it's true. And I'm not going to change that for anybody. Like you're in my house, meaning the dealership, or on the phone. I'm going to do it my way. That's how you lead people because you do it. And let's talk about the next step, okay? The massive opportunity that truly no one really talks about, and that is half the industry truly refuses to adapt, meaning we're stuck in old ways. A lot of dealerships are. I have a lot of students that despise their managers, won't do TOs. They are stuck in their ways. There's one student that his dealership wouldn't even appraise a vehicle, even if they're hours and hours away. They just didn't care about the market, didn't care about selling those people. They would only do it their way. Like that's different. You've got to adapt to times. And if I was an owner, a dealer principal, a GM, someone doesn't want to like adapt to the new ways, you can get out. So I think that half the industry is still stuck in the old ways. Management still don't want to get off their butts, don't want to help people, don't want to train salespeople, and understand this. Like it's going to cost them. And that's part of the reason why the numbers don't go up every month and they stay flatline. It flatline just means dead, or it's a roller coaster. That just means that you're not consistently having better processes to truly adapt to the times. And then the turnover ratio is 42% of all people get in this industry leave within 60 days. That's because of management. That's because they're not trained. You kind of sink or you swim in this industry. A lot of people know what I'm talking about when I say that. They just we've got to onboard correct. We've got to train those individuals. Like, I think I'm one of the best trainers out there. And I know that's why my company is going to blow up. It just takes time. It's already done very good in 6 months, like better than most people ever would have thought. Um, and where I'm going with this is like, we've got to do a better job. Like we've got to adapt to the times. And most salespeople they quit within 42 days, or I'm sorry, 60 days, 42% because they're just not. We don't give them the right tools for success. And sometimes management, we are not giving the right tools to succeed at a very high level from our upper management or owners. We've got to adapt and we've got to learn ways. I remember a company that, I was a GSM for. They didn't give me all of the tools, but I had to adapt. And, I've got to make it work. The one thing that anybody can say about me from a management standpoint is I pushed them, and we trained very hard. Was I hard on people? Absolutely. Did they make more money with me than they've ever made before? 100%. And I still get calls, people saying that. I wish you were here because we made way more money. But and we also had fun because we had Nerf gun wars pretty much at the end of every night, sometimes throughout the day if we didn't have somebody, because I wanted to make it fun. Because sales is hard. Like no one loves getting rejected. Even myself, it doesn't affect me, but do I like it? No, because no one does. But yet again, we get rejected more than any other industry because we're in sales. And that's part of the reason why we get paid a lot of money, if you're worth it. And, you know, my best advice to managers and dealers, like, train your people. Like, I love training. I do it with a passion. I would love to train your people. The number one thing that you need to train on now more than ever is the phone, is prospecting, is closing deals. When they're there, close them. Number one, though, is the phone. And that's my strongest attribute. So please reach out. And hiring more people is not the answer. So many times I hear, well, the average person sells 10, so I got to have 20 people. That's not the answer. The answer is I want my people. I never wanted to flood the floors. I never did because I wanted my people. Now, if we get to the point where I can't keep up with demand, that's different. But just flooding the floor because you think that another body's going to sell you another 10 cars, that's not the answer anymore. The answer is training. The answer is taking care of the people that you already have and making their lives better because they've invested their time, their energy, the time away from their family because they want to make more money. Invest in your people. Um, Skill development is the number one tool that, I went to the NADA Academy and I'm paying myself to go through there. And I'm about to graduate next month in March. And the number one thing that we've learned in the terms of why people leave dealerships is because they don't train. That's the number one reason. They want to feel like their skill set is going up. And it goes back to like Tony Robbins. I love that guy. And his six human needs. His first one is certainty. They want to feel certain that they are getting better. They want to feel certain that, this is the right place for them. And number two is uncertainty and variety. Those for more for the risk takers. Number three is significance. They want to feel like they are making an impact, a significance in the company. And number four is loving connection. They want to feel that love. They want to feel that connection that, they are there, and they're connected to everybody. Five is growth. They want to grow. It goes back to, number one as well, where they want to grow their skill set. And then number six is contribution. They want to feel like they're contributing. They're contributing. So please understand this is how you retain people. And by doing so, you're going to build a culture. If you train your people, if you invest in them, and even if you have your management speak with them a few minutes here and there, that's not really training. Like, show them that you're willing to have a third party company like myself, if not me, somebody else. Like, spend time with these individuals where they have the tools that they feel to grow. And if they don't, then that's on them. But at least you're providing that. Instead of discounting a car 1,500, 2,000, invest that money. And that money will give them a lot more. Sometimes salespeople just need to hear it from somebody else. You know what I'm talking about. If you're in management, you might preach to them the same stuff. I might come in and say the same stuff. I'm probably going to go in a lot more deeper. Don't take out the wrong way. But sometimes just that second voice helps. Just like a TO, salesperson might have said everything that you said. You go in there, say the same thing, just from a authority standpoint, they buy. It's the same way with sales training. So please do that. And understand this, the car business still creates millionaires, not just for the average effort anymore. Like, it's been very good to me, like very, very good. And that's why I love this industry because there's so much more opportunities now than ever for elite salespeople. There's more like, if you're an elite salesperson, you're going to move up a lot faster. So wanted to make this podcast. It's been about 47 minutes, 45 minutes. Um, Share this with other individuals. Like, I'm making a podcast. My goal is every single day, 5 days a week. That is my goal. Potentially 6 days, but for sure at least five. And I want to bring a lot of value to you all. So please make sure you share this with somebody and let's pump up everybody listening to this podcast. This is built for salespeople and management staff, even owners, like anybody in the auto industry. This is built for the sales department primarily, though. So I love you all. God bless. Believe in yourself because I do.